and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners with a bit of a difference. We are live for the first time. We've been doing this nearly 2.5 years, and we are finally taking the brave steps into live broadcasting. So yes, we are here to cover last night's Royal Rumble for the WWE. I hope you can all see us and hear us properly, but we're delighted to bring you this first live broadcast of Wrestling with Johners. I am Johners, the host, and I've been doing this for just over 2 years, started in November 2018 with weekly or twice weekly shows. This is about episode 166, I think. So about time we started going live. But welcome one and all. If you're listening to us or watching us on Facebook, various Facebook groups, including the Wrestling with Johners community page, and of course YouTube. So I'm going to introduce the gang. First of all, Kyle from Kyle Wrestling. Kyle, how you doing? One of the new members of the Johners podcasting network. How you doing, my friend?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be on here.
You're very, very welcome. And we got Kieran, KJPWP, the newest podcast. Hasn't started yet, going to be launching in March to join the network. But Kieran, KJ, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. Glad to be back. Obviously, it's been a while since I've last done one of these, so I'm glad, I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to venturing out.
Indeed, and this man doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. Mike Maddog Angus, TNT Extreme ring announcer extraordinaire, been on the Wrestling with Johners podcast many times before. Mike, how the devil are you?
I'm absolutely wonderful, Johners, as always. It's great to see you guys. An honour to be involved in your first live broadcast, and looking forward to chat to everyone and go over what happened at the Rumble last night. It was a great show, and I want to hear everyone's opinions. So go for it, Jonas. Take it away.
Well, it was a good show, and I think we all enjoyed it. I think it had a lot of really positive endings. I think some favourable winners to the matches, and it's given us a taste to what we might expect coming into WrestleMania in a few months' time. But yes, we will get into it. It's the 34th Royal Rumble. The first Royal Rumble was 33 years ago, 1988. Wow, and I think my earliest memories of Royal Rumble was back in 1991, and especially that probably the best Royal Rumble in 1992. And my favourite, the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair, with a tear in his eye, won the Royal Rumble that year. But Mike, what was your favourite Royal Rumble moment from the years? I know that we've been watching a similar length of time. Tell us what your favourite Royal Rumble or Royal Rumble moment was, my friend.
Yeah, no, 92 was absolutely awesome, wasn't it? A great Rumble, and only made even better by Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary. His, heel commentary, colour commentary on that show was just immense. And I was, lucky enough, got to tell Bobby that to his face at Wales Comic Con. Me and my son met Bobby the other year and got to tell him that. And, he was, I got a big thumbs up off him. So, he's obviously proud of that piece of work. Always enjoyed the Rumble, John, as growing up, and Shawn Michaels had a couple of good years. When I was watching it, he had the one where he came in first and won, and I still always, I struggle to get over the one where he eliminated the British Bulldog. After one foot had touched the floor, and then he eliminated Bulldog. I really was rooting for the Bulldog that year. So it's a great moment in wrestling history to look back on, but. I still just think, oh, come on, Davey boy, that was his big chance there. So, oh well.
Yeah, and Kyle, just very briefly, what's your favourite Royal Rumble moments besides what happened last night, of course?
Well, there's many, but I think last year when Edge returned, the pop of the crowd was just amazing. Absolute icon in the wrestling world, came back.
Yeah, 100% agree. That was probably one of the best, longest-lasting memories of Royal Rumble history. What a pop, what a moment. And Kieran, over to you. Your favourite Royal Rumble moment. I know that the last time you was on, we actually discussed and reviewed the 2020 Royal Rumble, all the magic that happened last year. But your favourite Royal Rumble moment?
It would have to be 2016. Obviously, as you know from previous podcasts, I'm a massive AJ fan. So AJ coming in number 3, make his debut at the Rumble. Roman's face when the music hit was absolutely priceless as well. For me, that's my iconic moment. I've followed all of AJ's career, and to see him finally in WWE and to see what he's done as well, it's just been amazing for me to watch it all.
Yeah, well, lots of talking points from last night's Royal Rumble. Lots of big moments, some really, really good matches. I thought there was some good matches, not just the Rumble matches alone. I thought some of the singles matches were particularly good. Really want to dive deep into the last man standing match as well, because I thought that was fantastic. But let's start from... This was the first ever Royal Rumble without fans as well. Let's not forget. It seems like a lifetime ago since we last had fans on any sort of wrestling show. You know, for those that watch AEW Dynamite and one or two others, obviously there's a small number of fans, maybe 1,000 or so in the outdoor arena there, Daily's place. But as far as WWE is concerned, yes, when you watch the Black and Gold brand on a Wednesday evening with NXT, they do have a few friends and family and fans around ringside. But for a main roster WWE show, I've not seen any fans for getting on for a year now, and this was the first Royal Rumble without fans, so it did seem very strange from that point of view, certainly. But let's have a little talk about the kickoff match, because I think it was originally on the main card, and then it got switched to the pre-show, and it's for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, and it was Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Charlotte and Asuka. Charlotte and Asuka, the champions, going into it. And we do have new women's tag team champions in the form of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, two-time tag team champions, might I add. But thanks to a little bit of interference from Lacey Evans and Ric Flair, who came to ringside and kind of got involved in the finish to the match. But Mike, you watched that match, I think, between cooking a pizza, I think you were saying, before we went live on air. But what were your thoughts on that one? Any takeaway moments, besides the pizza, from that pre-show, Mike?
Yeah, pepperoni, good. Ham, good.
You didn't have pineapple. Please say you didn't have pineapple.
No, not for the Rumble. That's SummerSlam. But yeah, no, I thought I luckily did catch the match. Yeah, excellent stuff. Probably my favourite part of the pre-show was definitely R-Truth. He was looking for Bugs Bunny, and he was dressed as Elmer Fudd. I thought that was pretty good. And you know, when the guys on the panel got onto that was you know, great comedy moments. And you know, obviously R-Truth got involved a little bit later on. But the horny Ric Flair and Lacey Evans, as SP3 likes to call him, you know, he caused the you know, well, I suppose it's an upset, really, isn't it? And the titles are back in the hands of Baszler and Nia Jax. And obviously, Charlotte Flair not happy at all going into the main show later on. So, yeah, good little pre-show kickoff. Something different happened, something exciting. And I felt like the crowd were getting directed a little bit too much in the Thunderdome. I just felt like it was a bit too much of everybody doing the same thing. You know, obviously, that they're told to do certain things, I'm assuming. But, yeah, it was a little bit too much at the start of the show. But then it didn't affect the show as much as I expected it to. The fans not being there, I'll be honest, I was very worried going into the show that it would be just, you know, they just wouldn't be able to recreate it. But, you know, in the end, it turned to, you know, I loved it. But it was a great show, really good. But yeah, carry on. Let the others give their opinions on that opening bout.
Well, we've had a few messages before we go to the other two. Stewie from Stu's Wrestling Podcast, he's put up a nice T-shirt. Maddog, you're sporting the Stu's Wrestling T-shirt there. Fantastic podcast and video cast. Interviews some amazing wrestlers from around the world. Stewie's a really great guy. Another one there saying, hi, Maddog, anonymous Facebook user.
Hello.
Somebody saying Big Johnny. I'm guessing they're talking to me there, but thank you for that. And
Big Johnny, I didn't know that's what they called you.
Well, yeah, we'll get on to that another conversation. Powered 4 TV is messaged in to say, great to see you on live, Kyle. Was you happy with the Rumble results? So we talk more about the Rumble results, but on the whole, did you enjoy the show, would you say, Kyle?
Yeah, it was really good, considering there was no crowd, but yeah, it was really good.
Awesome. And Kyle, just jump into you. What was your very quick thoughts on the pre-show match, the Women's Tag Team Championship?
I mean, it was mixed bags for me. I was hoping Charlotte and Asuka would retain, but Ric Flair coming out, you know, it did annoy me a bit, but that's Ric Flair for you.
Yeah. And Kieran, did you catch the pre-show? If so, were you happy with the two-time tag team champions in the shape of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax?
I did and I didn't. I think storyline-wise, the results obviously were what they needed to kind of build more on Charlotte and Lacey. So it does free up Charlotte to then feud with Lacey going into Mania. Obviously, they're doing Mania over 2 days again this year, I believe. So they're trying to build as many matches as possible. So for me, that was a good idea. So for that, I'm happy. It's a bit annoying that it had to change under such circumstances. It would have been nice to see Shayna and Nia get the clean win, because they were dominating, and they are both, if you look at them legitly, the biggest people in the business. I mean, Shayla's MMA career versus Baszler's just Nia's size and strength. They make an amazing team. So I think for what it was done, the result was what it needed to be.
Yeah, indeed. And one more quick message from Mr. Matt Bayliss, host of Pull Up a Seat podcast. Mad Dog, give us a wave. And there we go. We're all big Mad Dog fans on this podcast. But there we go. So let's get on to the main. How do we remove? Keep Mad.
Just keep waving.
There for a minute.
Keep waving.
There we go. Keep waving, Mad Dog. Keep waving. Let's talk about the opening match then of the main show, because it might have caught a few people by surprise. It did go straight into a WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre versus Bill Goldberg. So just to cover some of the highlights, these two were straight out of the gate. Even before the bell rang, there was a big headbutt and a spear by McIntyre. Not often you see McIntyre using a spear, but getting the spear in while he can. Goldberg sent McIntyre crashing through the barricades at ringside, and this was all before the bell. There was an early Claymore kick from Drew, got a 2 count. Goldberg came back with 3 spears and a jackhammer, but after Goldberg missed a fourth spear going straight into the ring. The ring posts, the corner pads. Drew connected with the final Claymore kick to retain his championship. The match only went 2.5 minutes. Some might say it was not only the perfect outcome for the match, but a perfect length of match as well, considering Goldberg's stamina or lack of stamina. He's never really been the sort of guy that can go very long in the matches. He did seem to be kind of blowing quite hard afterwards. He was pretty gassed. Or maybe he was just selling Drew's offense, but I think he was just 2.5 minutes was the absolute maximum for Goldberg. But the thing we're most pleased about is Drew retaining the championship, which is a good sign, being only a couple of months away from WrestleMania. But Kyle, I'm going to start with you this time, my friend. What did you think to the opening match? Drew retains the WWE Championship, and a good outcome, I would say. What about yourself?
I was so happy when he retained. My heart was in my mouth the whole match. I remember saying to Mike and Kieran about it last night. It was just crazy, At one point, I did think Goldberg was going to, take the championship, but no, McIntyre managed to retain. It was a really good match.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it, for what it was, a 2.5 minute match. And bearing in mind, they had a lot of action before the bell as well. And then 2.5 minutes afterwards, it did feel longer. But of course, there was a lot of action before the bell, before the match officially started. Mad Dog, over to you. You're obviously over the moon that Drew retained. Looks like he's going to be going into WrestleMania as the WWE champion. Still a couple of pay-per-views, I think Fastlane and Elimination Chamber before we get to Mania. Gives your thoughts on that opening match.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great way to start the show. Very exciting, and the attack before the bell. It had you thinking, could there be a switch going on here? We've seen it before with Goldberg beating people quick. Just off from the bell, and he's hit that jackhammer, and the title's changed hands. So it even had myself thinking, that there could be a title change coming. I didn't want to see a title change, but there was a possibility of it, and I thought they got the match just right. Goldberg looked great. I thought he looked strong, hit the jackhammer well. He hit his offense, took the offense of Drew, and I thought they had a good match. And what I liked was the nostalgia factor of Bill Goldberg being involved and looking decent. And I thought he had a chance, and he looked good. And to show the respect to Drew that he deserves, and to see them shake hands at the end and earn his respect. I think it just builds to the Drew McIntyre character they've been working on, and great stuff. And well played, Bill Goldberg, because it was a solid match, and it was a great way to kick off the show. I thought perfect way to kick off the show. Very exciting.
Yeah, and it was so nice that they kind of gave Drew the victory, because I think he deserves it. Although he's a two-time champ, he's been a fantastic WWE champion, and he's really carried that belt with honour. Kieran, over to you. What did you think of the opener? Like I said, I thought it was a solid match for what it was. Very reminiscent to when Goldberg fought Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania a few years ago. Short, impactful, hard-hitting, to the point. It did what it needed to do, and last night was much the same.
Pretty much same as what Mad Dog said. Honestly, when I saw it was opening, I was like, oh, really? Because that's the second pay-per-view now where Drew's opened the card, because he did it at TLC as well with AJ. So I was like, ooh, a little bit weird, which made me think there was going to be a title change and then Drew would end up in the Rumble.
Yeah.
Because obviously with Keith Lee not being able to perform, it would have been an easy entry to put in. That was my mindset going into it. So when Drew did retain, I was really happy. Like Mad Dog said, Goldberg did look in good condition, but I did notice at the end he looked like he'd had a shower. He was sweating a lot.
He was breathing heavy on that rampway going back to the locker room, but like I say, he could have been just selling that final Claymore. But at least Goldberg didn't bust himself open on a ring post like he did in Saudi Arabia and completely embarrass himself. I think this was a little bit of redemption, even though he's on the losing end. I thought it was a good match between the two of them for what it was, and a good result and the right victor at the end of it. We went from one championship match to another championship match. Our match number 2 on the main card was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Guys, Sasha Banks, the champion, going into it, going up against Carmella with Reginald at ringside. Now, the last time these two met, the last big match was, I think, at TLC, just at the back end of last year, just at the back end of 2020. And they put on a really good match, a surprisingly good match. A lot of people weren't expecting too much from Carmella in that match, and she surprised everybody. I've got to be honest, myself included. And I think she put on a really, really good effort here again last night. Did unfortunately come out on the losing effort. I say unfortunate, I was kind of rooting for Sasha, and it was the bank statement submission that put an end to the match and put an end to Carmella's attempt at winning the SmackDown Gold. But another fairly entertaining match. We're kind of on a bit of a roll now for quality of matches. And Kyle, what did you think to the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Sasha Banks versus Carmella?
Yeah, it was really good. Carmella was absolutely on top in this match, I think. One point I did think Carmella was going to win, but I'm happy that Sasha retained,
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And she had, like I say, every time she won a championship, she would lose it on the first defense. And now she's kind of the SmackDown Women's Championship. She beat Bayley in that tremendous match. I think it was Hell in a Cell. I could be mistaken. But she's been on a roll. She's defended the championship successfully since then. And it looks like she could very well be going to WrestleMania as the champion, which would be much deserved. But Mad Dog, what were your thoughts on this one? Did it do it for you?
Yeah, you know what? Another solid, great match. I thought it was very good. I liked the showcase that they gave to them. Both entrances were great. Sasha Banks with the pyro, and Carmella's little bit at the start with the bit of dancing and everything was great. I love Corey Graves commentating on Carmella matches because obviously they're in a relationship. So I just think some of the bits he throws in, they're not hiding the fact that they're together, which is always good. Breaking down that fourth wall, but as well he came out with some corkers on the commentary. At one point, I think Michael Cole said, "What does Carmella do?" And Corey Graves just said, "She looks great," which I thought was hilarious. Really good match. At one point, Sasha Banks said to Reggie, "I've got my eyes on you, Reggie," right near the start. And Reginald and the match they'd had earlier on in the week, really, and last week I think it was actually on SmackDown, they had a great match. So Reggie's involvement was brilliant as well. I think he's, does some great stuff and really added to the match as well, which doesn't always happen with managers. Carmella, really impressive. She's got so much better in the last couple of years, and her trash talking in this match with the bit of banter she was firing out at Sasha Banks were great. when she tied Sasha's hair into the ropes was a heel move, and it was great. The weave, she was weaved into that bottom rope. The only little bit that I wasn't a huge fan of was the suicide dive. That looked a bit of a botch, and it was a rough landing. It was, not what you want to see at all.
She
And
recovered well, but that looked.
I mean,
she nearly doubled over in half. Anybody else, I think they would have stayed down.
Yeah, I was very concerned, but I'm sure sort of dancing and the athletic work these guys do, they can take, something like that can obviously be horrific, but they're super athletes, and their bodies are built for things like that happening as well. So that was, it looked bad, but hopefully, nothing actually bad came of it. And opponent obviously checked in on her there as well, which is good to see on the ref. But yeah, great match, and really good. I thought it was could have gone either way, and I think they just need to keep building the. Someone just said, good save by Sasha, definitely, yeah. But yeah, brilliant match, showcased them both really well, and exciting to see where they're going to go next. And with that storyline could continue. There's all sorts of stuff they could do there with Reginald as well, and long may it continue, because they're doing really well with their matches. So that's what I like to see.
Yeah, I think Reginald has been a fantastic addition to the act of Carmella, and I think we kind of saw everything that Carmella had to offer previously. Now she's kind of. Do you remember Emelina, when Emelina was coming along? And I think Lana kind of took that gimmick, and he's very reminiscent to that. But I think having Reginald as part of that act, as part of that gimmick, completes the package. He acts as a little bit of a heater for Carmella, and can kind of catch her when she gets thrown off of the apron and things like that. So it works really, really well. And I've grown to like Carmella more in recent months than previously, certainly since she returned. But Kieran, I haven't forgotten about you. Give us your thoughts on this women's SmackDown Championship match.
Match in Hall was solid. Like Mike's covered all of the like high spots that I was going to bring up, with like the suicide dive and stuff like that. I mean, it's all right. It's not an issue. I watched that and I was like, this, ouch. But like Mike said, you literally see straight away Sasha rolls over, make sure she's okay. But what I will say is I'm loving Carmella at the minute. I think her coming back as a heel, and with her being a heel, but she's not like a serious heel. So she's got Reginald there to kind of add a comedy value to it. So she's still doing the stuff she did with Face, like R-Truth, but it's not as cringy as what it was. So she's still got the joke, she's still got the banter, but she's doing it in a heely way with Reginald. And I think for her, at this moment, it's amazing for her, and she's really embraced it. So I'm not expecting much longer until Carmella does pick up some sort of title in the WWE with all of this stuff going on. She's really come leaps and bounds from when she was doing the fabulous stuff.
Yeah, she certainly got the look and the gimmick that Vince McMahon might like, you could say. But it might, she's not quite going to be the kind of wrestler that I prefer to have the gold around their waist, if I'm honest with you. But like you say, she has been SmackDown champion before. I think just after WrestleMania 2018, she beat Charlotte, didn't she? If I'm not mistaken, to win her first championship. So she has held the gold before, and now she has come on leaps and bounds. So you never know, but not on this occasion. So let's move on. Backstage.
Mike, first question.
John, just before we move on, one thing I wanted to mention was, don't you think it'd be great if Reginald suggested a wine for each of Carmella's matches, as he's a sommelier?
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? That would be awesome.
That's the way they could go with it, isn't it? If he suggests a Sauvignon Blanc for this matchup this evening or something beforehand.
Yeah, but now that you've suggested it, Maddog, you've thrown it out there into the ether, and I'm sure Vince McMahon will kind of pick it up, and he'll be discussing it around the board table tomorrow.
That's it. Get the tasting notes on each match. We want to see what's going on.
That could be the final thing they need, just to kind of cap off her gimmick and to push her that step closer. But then we have a backstage segment. You've got Big E giving Woods a bit of a pep talk, or maybe it was the other way around. But then we have the brilliant Sami Zayn thinking how the wrestling gods are conspiring against him. We even had an appearance from Kofi, so a bit of a New Day reunion at the Royal Rumble last night, which was always fun to see. And then we go into the first Rumble match of the show, guys. It was the Women's Royal Rumble match. So I'm going to ask you one at a time, just very, very quickly. Did you have a favourite going into the Women's Royal Rumble match? Who did you want to win ahead of last night? Kyle, I'm going to start with you, buddy.
I think my favourite part was Toni Storm coming out. Toni is one of my favourites on Progress, you know, and I was hoping she would win, but she went out pretty quick. But yeah, I was hoping Rhea Ripley throughout the whole thing.
So Kyle rooting for Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley there. Mad Dog, did you have a favourite going into it?
Yeah, going into it, I had me and the guys did a bit of a sweepstakes, my friends from home, and I had, let me just tell you, I had in my sweepstakes this year was I had Toni Storm. I ended up getting Victoria, Naomi, Shayna Baszler, Rhea Ripley, Lana, and Ember Moon. So I was pretty excited, you know, when they came out in them numbers. What we did was we picked our numbers each, and then, you know, as they come out, you get allocated that person. So I was thinking I was in with a chance for that one. And on the Wrestling Travel podcast, which I do, I predicted that I thought Rhea Ripley would win, and everybody else had picked someone else. So so I was hoping that Rhea would do the business for me, and she had a great Rumble. But you know, we'll go on to it in a second. What actually happened? One other thing I'd just like to touch upon as well. I thought the Big E and Xavier Woods segment was great, and the whole Sami Zayn angle with the documentary crew is really working for me. I think that's great. And then obviously Kofi with the surprise attack, that was great for him to appear. And obviously the masterstroke of it all, the best bit of it all was the fact that they had the Brody Lee dedication on the gear. That was just an absolute touch of class, and you know, great respect paid by the New Day there, and that's just lovely to see. And you know, I'm sure a lot of people appreciated that. So that was just another marvelous thing. And it, you know, so far working through the show, everything has been very good, and you know, one of the best shows in a long time, I think, so far. So yeah.
And then, Kieran, before we start covering the highlights of the Rumble match, did you have a favourite going into it, my friend?
Yeah, Bella. Obviously, with all the stuff she's been doing with Bayley recently, I had her picked like 2 weeks ago. As soon as she announced her name, I called Belair. And like Mike said, like that tribute to Brody Lee was absolutely. I saw that, and literally as I saw it, I was like, "No, that is, yeah, okay." Also, they're currently auctioning it off on online for money's going to charity. I saw an article about it earlier. So if anyone's interested in buying some wrestling history.
Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. So some of the highlights then. So to many people's surprise, former women's champion Bayley came out number 1, followed by the returning Naomi. One interesting thing to note that Bianca Belair came out number 3. So remember that Bianca Belair came out number 3. Then Shotzi Blackheart, Tank, and All came out number 5. Two-time tag team champion Shayna Baszler, won the tag team championship with Nia Jax earlier on in the evening. She came out number 6, with Toni Storm coming out number 7. I'm not going to go through all the entries, just some of the ones that I certainly spotted. Rhea Ripley came out number 14. One of Kyle's favourites there, and she looked awesome throughout her time in the Rumble last night. She disposed of several wrestlers very, very quickly. Last year's winner, Charlotte, came out number 15. Dana Brooke, she was eliminated by Rhea Ripley from a brutal powerbomb on the ring apron that looked as sick as hell. You could hear the thud before she crashed to the outside. Lacey Evans, she came out number 18, dressed in one of Ric Flair's signature purple robes. Mad Dog gives a woo.
Woo!
There we go. And then we had an impromptu 24/7 championship match. This didn't go down well with me with R-Truth. I don't know if you got confused thinking that he was an entrant in the Rumble. He always tends to do it the wrong way around, doesn't he? But he got pinned by Alicia Fox, one of the legends in the match. Alicia Fox was very briefly the 24/7 champion until she got eliminated, and then R-Truth rolled her up to win the championship for the 9,722nd time. Then we had the Firefly Funhouse Alexa Bliss. She came out number 27. Ember Moon 28. We saw Nia Jax throw her own tag team partner Shayna Baszler out of the match. The final 4 women were between Natalya, who was number 30, of course, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair. Bianca eliminated Natalya. It took Belair and Ripley to eliminate Charlotte. They got to keep Charlotte looking strong by having her eliminated by 2 individuals, of course. And after a brief battle between Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair won the match from the number 3 spot. So a really, really good outcome, a fantastic match, lots of cool highlights. And what I enjoyed most about it was that Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, 2 young, strong, talented wrestlers were there until the end. Dare I say it, having them 2 as the final 2 in the Women's Rumble match last night is a good and positive sign for the women's division going forward. But start with you, Kyle. You told us earlier that you really enjoyed the match, especially when Toni Storm came out. But was you happy with the eventual winner, and was you happy with the match as a whole?
Yeah, I was really happy with Bianca winning. I was really happy for her. She's an amazing wrestler. She really deserved it. And coming in at number 3, surviving the whole thing. Toni Storm coming out, I popped. It was really good. I was happy about that. And when Ric Flair, I remember saying to Mike last night, when Ric Flair came out, I was a bit confused at first. I was like, hey, where's Rick here? And then Lacey Owens came out. I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, it was really good in total.
Yeah. Did anybody else think that Ric Flair was going to enter the Women's Royal Rumble? He's probably had a few situations like that back in the day, but under slightly different circumstances. But for a second, I did think he. But anyway, let's move on. Mad Dog, give us your thoughts on the match, and are you happy with the eventual winner?
Yeah, I was tempted to say I thought Flair might answer myself as well. Yeah, and then obviously I just spotted Madeline's comment there as well about props to the Tank.
Indeed.
And I've seen Justin Clapper's been commenting quite a bit, and I know he's not a fan of the Tank at all. He's a big fan of the AWA and classic sort of retro wrestling. He just can't get the Tank at all, so he's not a fan of that. But each to their own. And I thought it was a great addition, to have that entrance. Billie Kay on commentary was absolutely marvelous. Really enjoyed her work. And exactly, Billy and Jilly, perfect timing. But yeah, that was great stuff. To see Jillian Hall, Victoria, Tori Wilson, and Mickie James in the Ladies' Rumble was great to see. Other things I noticed, they mentioned quite a lot of time that Toni Storm is the resident rock star. I think that's something they want to get stuck in your head. So I'll bear that in mind. Early on in the Rumble, Bianca Belair was very Shawn Michaels-esque. There was a couple of times where there was people skinning the cat and hanging onto the ropes, and it was and I just like to say, for of all the women's rumbles, it was my favourite one they've done, and I actually thought it was a really well done rumble. It really made sense. Everything that happened, and it made sense. Everyone was showcased well. The people who came in as guests didn't stay too long. Oh, you're losing me. Don't worry. It's just there's a squirrel on the internet connection again.
The gremlins. But carry on, Matt.
That's it. It happens. Yeah, I was just going to say, all the none of the guests who came in overstayed their welcome. They all looked in great shape, and nobody looked out of place in the match. Apart from R-Truth from the 24/7, I didn't think that was needed in the match. But then, some people might have enjoyed it. It was what it was. It was in something different, and it was. But the match was so well done that it didn't need that. I think they might have thought, well, maybe there's going to be a moment there where we need to do something with Alicia, but it was all going so well anyway. So unfortunately, my sweepstakes got absolutely rumbled because I was hoping for Rhea to win, and I had her in the sweepstakes as well, and they got down to the last 2, but it was Bianca, who they built up so well over the last couple of SmackDowns, with her carrying Otis around the other week, and also beating Bayley last week on SmackDown. It was written in the stars, and she'll be going to Mania, and I'm sure she'll represent well, and it'll be she'll be great on the show. But props to Ripley as well, and some of the others who stood out. Dakota Kai with the bump on air exit as well was that was another rough fall. But fair play to them. It was a great Rumble match, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Excellent, well played.
Kieran, give us your thoughts. Okay, I think Kieran can't quite hear us there, but I want to ask your opinion on some of the legends that was in the women's match. Because I've got a list here. We obviously know that Gillian Hall was in it. Victoria made an appearance. That was one of Mad Dog sweepstake picks. Tori Wilson, one of Grizz's favourites, of course. Mickey James and Alicia Fox. I felt that the legends probably weren't as good as they were in last year's Rumble. But Kieran, are you back with us?
I am, apparently.
Give us your thoughts on some of the legends that was in the women's match last night, buddy.
So obviously I stayed up and watched it with my partner, and having to explain to her which every legend was quite fun. But for me, I quite liked it. It was nice to see Victoria come back. I mean, obviously she's not been on TV for a while. Tori Wilson, obviously it was fun to have Jerry the King Lawler going, "It's my favourite diva." I was half expecting him to go, "Puppies," but it never happened, which makes me sad. But all in all, the Rumble match itself was good, and I agree that the R-Truth moment wasn't needed at all. The pre-show stuff was enough, and then obviously there's a bit later on with R-Truth as well. So for me, to have R-Truth pop up 3 times on the show wasn't really necessary, and you've just give Alicia Fox, who's probably never going to be in WWE again, a title reign for like 5 seconds. It just kind of seems
5 seconds it was.
But I thought it was a great match. And another quick question for you all is Bianca Belair winning the Women's Royal Rumble last night. Now, she, I believe, is officially part of the SmackDown brand, unless I'm mistaken. But which champion do you think she should go after at Mania? Do you think it's, written in the stars it's going to be Sasha? Could she go for Asuka? What match would you prefer? So who should Bianca go after in April's Mania? Kyle, starting with you. Who would you like to see Bianca go up against?
I think Sasha Banks. I think that'll be a really good match. 2 brilliant athletes, and I could see Bianca being a SmackDown champion.
Yeah. And Mad Dog, what about yourself? Is that the match you're looking forward to at Mania?
Yeah, I agree. I saw somebody on Twitter earlier made a graphic for that match, and it looked pretty cool. And I think that would be a great match. She could go after Asuka, or anything could happen leading up to Mania yet. You could have all sorts of changes. There's a couple of pay-per-views to come, so I'll just be interested to see what happens on the road to WrestleMania. So,
yeah, and Kieran, it's got to be the Boss versus the EST, surely, hasn't it?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I think both those two's abilities combined together, they will literally just put on a 5-star match. I don't think they could fault anything at all. I believe with Belair's athletic ability as well as her strength and her power, with Sasha's heart, determination, and just wrestling skill alone, I think between those dynamics in a match for those two, and if they're given a decent amount of time as well, I think they could be top 5-star match for Mania this year. Yeah,
looks like not everybody's a fan of Bianca Belair. More like Buanca Belair. Am I right? I'm right. So that person is not a fan
Grizz.
of.
It's Grizz. He's not loving it.
Grizz. Oh, Grizz, come on, man. He's just jealous that Tori Wilson didn't win. He just wants another Miller cat fight like WrestleMania all them years ago, which is on record his favourite match of all time. But there we go. Grizz, thanks for watching. Let's go to the last man standing match then, guys, because I think it was a lot of people's favourite match of the evening. Certainly my favourite match. Out of all the kind of standalone matches, not including the Rumble matches, this was the match of the night for me. But Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, the head of the table for the Universal Championship, of course. But I've really enjoyed what they've done between these two. The feud between these two has built really, really well. They've had some good matches before last night, and all building to this last man standing, possibly the blow-off match to the feud. I think Roman Reigns is possibly going to move on to a different opponent as we get closer to Mania, of course, in April. But just to go through some highlights, and there were a lot of highlights we need to talk about. The match very quickly went to the outside, with Kevin Owens utilising the steel ring steps. Roman used steel chairs. They fought amongst the the Thunderdome monitors. Reigns launched Kevin Owens from the raised Thunderdome platform down through some tables. The fight goes backstage, and then from out of nowhere, Kevin Owens gets run over by Roman Reigns inside a golf cart. I know we've seen it before on AEW, but last night's was pretty impactful. A hell of a bump there. That looks brutal. Owens recovered and uses a forklift truck to perform a senton down onto Roman Reigns through two tables underneath in another awesome spot. Reigns then speared Owens through part of the stage. Then Owens handcuffs Roman Reigns to part of the lighting rig ringside, causing the referee to start counting. As the referee gets to about the 9 count, Reigns just destroys the referee by pulling him, throwing him into part of the structure. That looks brutal, and the referee sold it perfectly. He was gone. He was out for the rest of the match. The match continues, and Heyman helps to uncuff Reigns, allowing Reigns to hook in a guillotine, causing Owens to pass out, and was unable to answer the referee's 10 count. So, guys, this surpassed my expectations, and I thought this was a hell of a match, a hell of a last man standing match. Usually last man standing matches, they rely too much on gimmicks or weapons. This had a lot of action, a really good storyline building up to it, and in the match last night, some great action. Loved all the high spots. Some very, very memorable stuff happening here. But starting with you, Kyle, that last man standing match, what were some of your favourite moments?
Well, I think the build up to it, first of all, was just amazing. Like on the last few SmackDowns, and then last night it was such a hard hitting match. You know, it was crazy. I was hoping for Kevin Owens to come out victorious, but no, I'm still happy with Roman Reigns. You know, but yeah, it was a proper hard hitting match, and the golf cart topped it for me.
Yeah, and Mad Dog, give us your thoughts on this last man standing match. A lot of action, a lot of high spots, a lot of memorable moments to take away from that match.
You know what? I described it as a slobber knocker straight after. It was a masterpiece. It was very well done. It was really reminiscent of an Attitude Era main event. In fact, parts of it really reminded me of the Rock versus Mankind from their I Quit match at Royal Rumble 99. Especially with the handcuffs and stuff. And I've only seen Mick Foley tweeting about that match earlier in the week, saying it was X amount of years ago. And, you know, that match, I just thought it was great. And the build they've had to it the last couple of weeks has worked well with having Adam Pearce involved and not having KO involved as much. Kevin Owens absolutely delivered. He was just absolutely excellent. And last night, and the Roman Reigns was solid as well. What they did, the way the match progressed and flowed was really good. It all made sense with the last man standing rules and everything. The golf cart bit was a slightly reminiscent of the Stampede match that AEW did. But as well, that was, as you said, the golf cart spot was brutal going through the windscreen. I think Roman Reigns took the worst of that in his face by the looks of things. I'm not sure if he got that bit of glass or whatever in his face, or perspex, wherever it was. And then, there were a lot of ladders left out backstage, which I like to see. I used to love hardcore wrestling. Obviously, I work for TNT Extreme Wrestling, so I've seen my fair share of death matches and all that sort of thing. So, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And the only slight downside to it was obviously at the end where Heyman came out with the keys and they were struggling to get it off, get the handcuffs off, which was a bit of a shame. I think they could have covered for that.
Handcuffs main event match. That was his toughest in a long time by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think as well, if Heyman had just took a second and thought what was going on, he could have got up and decked that other ref as well, and it would have just progressed completely normally without it being a bother at all. But it just sort of, the ref had to sort of stop the count, and it was just a bit weird for a moment. But they got over that, and the rest of the match was so high quality. You can forget about that. It's not worth worrying about when the match has been of that quality. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So there's some great comments coming through as well. I can see like the people at home enjoyed the match as well, which is great to see. And go on, Kieran, give us your thoughts as well. What did you think, buddy?
Again, it's pretty much the same as what you said, Mike. Like, everything in that match was absolutely amazing. Like when Kevin Owens went and got the forklift truck, I honestly thought he was going to put the pallet on top of Reigns to pin him down, and I was like, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
And I was like, And then when he started raising it, I was like, what's he doing? And then when he climbed up, I was like, you crazy mother. The thing I liked as well is that they carried on in the match with the gimmicks that they started on SmackDown this week, with Roman Reigns saying that he wanted Kevin Owens to call him the head of his family. So when Owens sparked his second comeback after being hit by the golf cart, he said something about his dad, and then Owens just changed. And I thought, for me, that was absolutely brilliant, because that's the Owens I remember watching in Ring of Honor, in the Indies, before he came to NXT. That's the Owens I fell in love with. And it was nice to see a glimpse of that in the WWE. So I'm hoping that they let Owens have this more aggressive side now, even if it only goes down to he feuds with Big E at Mania. I think, personally, those two in a match at Mania would be absolutely amazing. And then if you made it like a ladder match, something like that, because they both can do it. They've both had ladder matches in the past, and they've both proved that they can do ladder matches. So for those two to be in a ladder match, or even like a three-way, four-way ladder match, like throw Sami Zayn in there, and I don't know, throw Xavier Woods in there for the lulz. But, you know, for me, there's a lot they can do with Kevin Owens from this standpoint. He's living off his Stun the World gimmick, and he's showing that he's got the power to take on the Tribal Chief. Like, for me, there was so many close times in there that they've proved that he is pretty much their next big star. They're just not willing to pull the trigger at this current moment, because Reigns with his new gimmick is just that bit big.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there, but I do always fear for Kevin Owens, because he gets involved in these main event feuds, these big championship feuds, and he always knocks it out of the park. But then after them feuds kind of come to an end, you do kind of wonder, well, it's back down the pecking order again for Kevin Owens, and it does make you kind of think, you know, what's he going to be? What feud is he going to be involved in leading into Mania, going into Mania? Because I think unless you want to correct me, I think we've probably seen the last match between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, unless they want to have one more match at Payback or whatever the next pay-per-view is. I like your kind of train of thought regarding having a multi-man ladder match for Big E's IC title at Mania involving Kevin Owens. I think that lends itself perfectly to his sort of style, and you can imagine him doing a massive frog smash off the top of the highest ladder. Nevertheless, let's not get away from the fact that it was an awesome match last night. It was a fantastic match, and one match I'm definitely going to be watching back very, very soon. If nothing else, just to see that golf cart spot one more time for sure. But let's move on to the final match, the main event then, the men's Royal Rumble match. And I'm torn between whether I like this match better over the women's match. But before we get into all the highlights and all the nitty-gritty of the match itself, Kyle, did you have a particular favourite going into it? Who was you rooting for before the men's Royal Rumble match last night?
Well, Daniel Bryan, for sure. He's just one of my favourites, you know, and I really thought that he could potentially go to Mania. But, yeah, I was happy with, mine's gone blank now, Edge winning, you know. I was really happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was rooting for Daniel Bryan also, to be honest with you. Maddog, what about yourself? Who did you have in the sweepstakes out of curiosity?
So for this one, I'd actually, on the Wrestling Travel podcast, I'd picked that I thought Big E would win, but then that was when I thought he was going to drop the IC title to Apollo Crews. So that sort of shook me a little bit that didn't happen. And but I was still rooting for Big E, and I liked what they said in the promo earlier on, which was when one of us wins the Rumble, we all win the Rumble. I thought, oh yeah, it could happen then, but then yeah, obviously it didn't happen. In my sweepstakes for this, so we picked between four of us and got some numbers each. So I ended up with quite a good bunch. So I had Shinsuke Nakamura, Damian Priest, Riddle, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Seth Rollins. They were the talent I got. And I always, for some reason, get a Mysterio. This time it was Dominic Mysterio, but for about 10 years on the run, I've had Rey Mysterio. The only one I didn't have him in was the one that he won. So the Mysterio curse, I call it, for Royal Rumble.
I'm calling it a conspiracy theory.
Maybe. But Kieran, did you have a particular favourite? Who was your pick before the match last night?
So I had Seth. Obviously, he wasn't confirmed to be on it, but with everything that's been going on, it perfect time for him to kind of come back with his time off and stuff like that. I wanted him to come back as the Burn It Down gimmick, though. I thought it'd be a good way for it to be a fresh start, and it'd have more impact than his Messiah music coming off. Like when his Messiah music came off, I was like, who's this? I don't like his Messiah music. I just think the whole Messiah gimmick for Seth isn't really necessary. On Raw, maybe they've got lots of bigger names that they can do other things and play around with. But on SmackDown, he doesn't need the Messiah gimmick. I think if he went back to the King Slayer, the Beast Slayer for SmackDown, for me, that would be what I would have wanted. So, yeah, I had Seth.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the match then. Number one, I think it was confirmed a couple of days prior, but was the Rated R superstar Edge. And number two was his bitter rival Randy Orton. So they continued their feud from last year's WrestleMania, and they had another couple of matches after that. At the beginning, they fought outside. Then we saw a cool Carlito as one of the legends came back. I don't know if it's a long-term thing, but he certainly looked in good shape, shall we say. He looked jacked. We had Intercontinental Champion Big E come out at number 10. Damian Priest was another surprise entrant. You could take him out at number 14. I think he was kind of penciled in for coming onto being a main roster member a few weeks back. That never happened, but he certainly made a bit of an impact last night. And I think he's got a very bright future on the main roster. I think he's got the look and the size and the charisma that the management are looking for. Matt Riddle came out at number 16, another man who I think has got a very, very bright future. And I have to say, he had a really, really, really good Rumble match last night. I think that they did a lot with him, and there were some good exchanges. He was followed by many people's favourite Daniel Bryan, of course. Then we got the mayor of Knoxville, the Big Red Monster Kane came out number 18. You also saw a brief Team Hell No reunion there before Daniel Bryan got chokeslammed by his former tag team partner. Dominic Mysterio came out number 21. He promptly dumped out King Corbin. That was a nice little spot there. We had another legend come out at 23, the Hurricane Helms, who we last saw on wrestling pay-per-view in an AEW pay-per-view. I don't know, he seems to be jumping backwards and forwards between affiliations, but there we go, back on a WWE pay-per-view last night. A nice little cameo there. He didn't last long in the match, though. Then we get Christian, another legend, coming back, looking great. But he certainly turned back the hands of time. He came out at number 25, making his official in-ring return after 7 years away. AJ Styles, KJ, or Kieran's favourite, came out number 26. Big E and Rey Mysterio were manhandled out of the ring by AJ's massive bodyguard, Omos, however you pronounce that. I think I'm just about right there. We saw the return of the Monday Night Messiah, as Kieran said, number 29. Braun Strowman came out number 30. We had a really nice exchange between Matt Riddle and Daniel Bryan towards the end, and that's definitely one match, Matt Riddle and Daniel Bryan, that I would like to see on a future pay-per-view. If you can make it a WrestleMania match, that would be great. Thank you, Mr. McMahon. The final four, or so we thought, was Seth Rollins, Strowman, Christian, and Edge. So E and C were back together for the final four. Rollins dumped out Strowman and Christian at the same time. Edge dumps out Rollins. So Edge, for a moment there, thought he'd won the Rumble match until Orton came out of nowhere with an RKO from out of nowhere after spending most of the match in the trainer's room after he and Edge went at it at the beginning of the match. But soon after, Edge dumped out Randy Orton after being in the ring from number one, 58 minutes. And there we go. After being injured for quite a while after their last match, Edge dumps out Orton, wins the Men's Royal Rumble for the second time. The last time he won it, the only time prior to last night was 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a really good match. I thought that several wrestlers had really standout moments. Certainly Matt Riddle, for me, I thought he was great and really was put over nicely in this match. But enough of me. Kyle, give us your highlights from last night's Men's Royal Rumble match. What did you enjoy? Was there anything you didn't enjoy? Give us your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I love seeing Carlito. He looked jacked as heck, you know. Whatever I wanted to comment saying, whatever is in that apple, I want it, you know. Yeah. Also seeing Kane, that was a brilliant highlight. Yeah, and then Randy Orton coming in at the end, Sly, you know, no one knew he was going to come back in, and yeah, and then Edge got him over, and I was quite happy, you know.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Carl and Mad Dog. I'm guessing you liked this match, and I'm guessing you liked the outcome. But give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, I think the whole show was really great. One point I would like to mention is I've heard today that Vince McMahon wasn't actually there producing the show, which is an interesting point. So it's you know, it was a very good show. It was and it was different. I've heard that he was in contact on the phone, but interesting that Vince wasn't there. And another thing I noticed was there was a few of the talent who I was expecting to appear weren't there as well. So I know I heard that Keith Lee had to isolate, but as well there was no Jey Uso. And also no Apollo Crews, which was quite interesting. So a couple of people missing there. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but they easily filled the gaps anyway. There's so many great talents about. Ricochet stepped in, obviously, and you know, Ali, and you know, the cameos were great. Carlito, as you guys said, was looking jacked. He's been on the apples, and you know, he was in Egypt just the other week working with Ricardo Rodriguez and Master, and now he's back over there, you know, in the States. He was meant to be on the Raw reunion the other week, but they've saved him for the Rumble, and it was great. And yeah, Helms getting paid. He's been on AEW and then back on there. My friend Tony is a big Hurricane Helms fan, and you know, that would have made his night if he hadn't fell asleep. But you know, at like 12 o'clock, he would love that. But as he said on Twitter today, he still hasn't learned, has he? He was going for that double choke slam again. It's just not going to happen, mate. Get over it. But yeah, some great showings by people in the Rumble. You know, good to see Nakamura wasn't in as long as I'd expected. Big E got dumped out a bit unceremoniously after how they've been building him. With Omos getting involved, maybe that'll be leading to something with AJ Styles and Big E. You never know. I thought there were a lot of people had great showings. Matt Riddle was in there. There were the feel-good moments with Edge and Christian. The big hug was a huge feel-good moment, and obviously Edge going over and winning, heading to WrestleMania was great. You know, there was some great stuff there. There was the only thing I wasn't too sure about was Bunny. I'm not familiar with Bunny's music or whatever, and you know, it was all seemed a bit like similar to what they'd done on AEW with Snoop Dogg the other week, especially with the slip off the top rope. But yeah, that wasn't my So yeah, someone's just asking about Bad Bunny. So yeah, I've seen a lot of people who really weren't fans of the Bad Bunny. So you know, it's one of them. I'm sure it's directed at a certain market. I'm guessing, if you know, Hispanic and Latino fans. So yeah, great, good on them. If that's if more people are going to watch because of that, then good on them. If that's what they've got to do, that's what they've got to do. But I know it was definitely a coffee break for a few people over in the UK. I can say that for sure.
Kieran, give us your thoughts on the Rumble match before we kind of look ahead to WrestleMania.
So for me, I wasn't overly happy that Edge won. I felt like in the Women's Rumble, they were kind of doing a passing of the guard. So they're trying to produce more talent. For me, Edge is a big enough name where he didn't need to win the Rumble to get a match at Mania. Like, they could base it around a storyline for him to get a match. So for me, Edge winning was kind of quid pro quo. It was kind of like, yeah, let's just give him a guaranteed title match when he could have, like, I don't know, Damian Priest had a massive showing. Like, 1 year, I want them to have a surprise entrant come in and be like, right, we've got this much faith in that guy. He's coming in this number. No one's heard of him unless they've watched like NXT or they've been away for a while, sort of thing. And give them the run. Like Damian Priest, he eliminated, I think it was Kane. He eliminated Kane and one other big guy as well. And I was like, they clearly want to push him. They're clearly pushing him to be some dominant person. So for me, they could have given the match to somebody else. I mean, I only picked Seth because of the whole baby with Becky sort of thing. So I thought WWE would be like, he's been off TV. Let's put him in a program with Roman. You know, those two are going to have good conversations with Heyman involved as well. Massive fight for Mania sort of thing. That's why I went Seth. For me, I would have preferred someone like Damian Priest, Riddle, someone like that, someone unexpected to win. That's just my opinion.
I'm going to throw this question out, guys. But do you think if Keith Lee was part of the match, that he would have been kind of in the final four, or possibly considered as an eventual winner. And you think, the fact that he couldn't be in the match in the end made them maybe choose Edge, or did they always have Edge in mind as the winner? I mean, anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think Edge was the last resort. Oh,
Really?
sorry. Yeah. I really thought like Keith Lee would have won, or at least got to the last two. But yeah, I think Edge was the last resort.
So from what I've been reading, which bugs me even more, is that Randy was actually supposed to win the match. He was supposed to go from one to the end, but because he had that injury and disappeared for so long, they changed the ending last minute. That's why he got tipped over by Edge. That's just what I've been reading about today. But for me, that would have annoyed me even more, to be honest, because he's just come out of a program with Drew. So to then have Randy win the Rumble to go face either Drew or Roman, it's kind of, you're not progressing anybody else. You're kind of just sticking your top stars as your top stars. How are you supposed to develop for the future if you're not putting any faith in your future?
And let me ask another question. I'm going to start with you, Maddog. So Edge won the Men's Royal Rumble last night. He's almost certainly going to go to WrestleMania as the number one contender for a championship. Which championship should he go for? We asked the same question earlier regarding Bianca Belair, but does Edge go for Drew's title, or does he go after the Tribal Chief?
Yeah, I think he should go after Drew, to be honest. I think that match has got legs, and I think it'd be good. I think there's enough going on SmackDown for Roman to keep busy as head of the table, and there's a lot of people who are stepping up to the plate there. KO's looking good, Daniel Bryan's looking good. They've recently had Cesaro and Nakamura picking up big wins. Apollo Crews has looked very good recently as well with his interactions with Roman. I think it makes sense to let them keep doing what they're doing over there, and you don't need to throw Edge at that and shake that up anymore. But I think Edge versus Drew is something different. Edge has come back from his injury, massive last year. He had some great matches, shown that he can come back. He's lasted in the Rumble, so he's shown that he can, he can still do it. And I think that's probably why they have had him win, so they can, now they can showcase him as a strong contender. And him versus Drew is going to be a great match, So I think that'll be the way I'd book it anyway. So.
Definitely. So we have that kind of penciled in as one WrestleMania main event. Kyle, Kieran, would you kind of side with Maddog there? Drew versus Edge as one of the main events at Mania?
I'd like to see Roman versus Edge, spear versus spear. But I think for safety reasons, with Edge's injuries and kind of how fragile he is around like pectoral muscles, stuff like that, I don't think Roman's a good shout with his new aggressive side. So I think Edge Drew is probably the best way to go for it.
I'd rather take a Roman Reigns spear than a Drew McIntyre Claymore, to be honest with you. But we shall see. So just going to throw it out to any of our viewers watching on Facebook or on YouTube. What WrestleMania matches would you like to see based off of what we saw last night? What do you think some of the main events will be? And if there's any other kind of undercard matches you'd like to see, send them in the comments and we will put them on screen before we end this broadcast. But Kyle, have you got any kind of WrestleMania matches that you think could be kind of written on paper or maybe etched in stone after last night? What WrestleMania matches are you expecting after the Royal Rumble, buddy?
Well, Bianca versus Sasha, hopefully. I think that'll get on the books quite soon. Roman Reigns versus someone. Do not know who yet, but that'd definitely be one of the big matches, I think. And Drew McIntyre versus Edge, I think, will be the biggest of the WrestleMania.
And Mad Dog, I can see kind of furiously scribbling some matches down there. What does your kind of card look like at the moment? If you got any matches that haven't already been mentioned?
That's it. That was the fantasy bookings going on right now, mate. Yeah, that was what I was just looking at. So there's still a couple of pay-per-views to come where things could change around quite a bit. As I said, with SmackDown, they're really building quite a good roster over there who all could be in contention. I think Walter versus Brock, who was that who put that? That's John Scott. Yeah, that'd be a cracker, mate. And I still think Big E versus Roman would be great. Yeah, and I think Edge versus Drew could happen. Bianca versus Sasha probably going to happen. I've got a feeling they're definitely going to do something with Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair. With Lacey. I think that's heading towards Mania as well. And the match that I did want to see was AJ versus Daniel Bryan, but obviously they gave us that on SmackDown last week. So I don't know. I thought that was going to be a dream one they might save for Mania, but it did get sort of turned into like a 10-man tag. So you just never know. You might get a proper version of that match with all sorts going on. So we'll just have to see. But looking forward to it. There's some great comments coming in from the guys watching as well. So let us know your thoughts. Great to see.
Yeah, I like this. An Edge and Christian reunion WrestleMania. I'd say he'll have to lose his kind of WrestleMania main event shot for that to happen. But we've got a couple of pay-per-views between now and then, so we might see an Edge and Christian reunion in an actual tag match. Who knows? Daniel Bryan. A lot of people want to see Daniel Bryan in a more high-profile match. But after what I saw last night, I want to see Daniel Bryan versus Matt Riddle. Give us Daniel Bryan versus Matt Riddle in a match, and a Mania match would be awesome as well. I think that now that Daniel Bryan is kind of working more backstage and producing a lot of the stuff and working with younger talent, I think that he's kind of, pulling some of the reins there. And if he can have a choice of opponents, I think Matt Riddle will be right up there. But Kieran, this is right in your wheelhouse. Bit of fantasy booking. You'd love to do this. Have you got any WrestleMania matches for us, buddy?
I've actually got a whole card lined up already from just after last night. So I'd like to see Roman versus Bryan in an either a last man standing match or an I Quit match. Daniel Bryan's always been the guy that's got heart, can't be beaten on heart. So I think to play on that sort of thing would work well, and with Roman's current gimmick. Edge versus Drew in just a normal match. I think both technical wrestlers, they do amazing. Plus, they've just got hard-hitting, quick offense. So that would just be a bog-standard match for me. AJ versus probably Matt Riddle for me would be good. As Maddie just put, I actually wanted to see Rhea versus Bliss, especially after yesterday, because they could build on that, because Bliss was about to do her turning and then Rhea knocked her out, so they could build on that with that. Sasha versus Bianca Belair in an Iron Woman match. Yeah. That'd be good. We haven't seen one of them in a while. Well, since NXT TakeOver, wasn't it? With Bayley and Sasha, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be good. The 4-man ladder match for me would be Big E, Cesaro, Shinsuke, and Sami Zayn. I'd say those would put on some good matches. I'd like to see KO go over to Raw, face Lashley for the US title. I think
Let's talk about that.
I'm
going to cut you off very slightly there, but Lashley, he's being presented as an unstoppable monster at the minute. He's being booked really, really well. He looks very dominant in the ring. A complete universe away from when he was in that horrible angle with Rusev and Lana. He's really being pushed, as a serious contender. But do you think they've possibly got eyes on Lashley being in a big main event match or a featured match at Mania? Maddog, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, very possibly. I was at WrestleMania 23 when he had probably his biggest match of his career against Umaga, when Donald Trump and Vince were in the corners, and that was a great one to be at. But Bobby Lashley was a star then, and he was the ECW champion. He was booked very well, and then obviously I don't know what went wrong for him, but he ended up. It is probably one of his best character portrayals was when he was at Impact Wrestling. He had a great little run there he was just a big bully, and basically when I was looking forward to seeing him do that when he came back to WWE, but he's only just getting there now, and that's with the hair business and everything as well. So I think it's good how they're booking him now, and it'd be nice to see. I think a match I'd like to see would actually be US title versus Intercontinental title. So if Big E keeps the Intercontinental title, I'd like to see them go against each other. That'd be an interesting matchup, and I think it'd make both of them look good, to be fair. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we can all agree that it was definitely a memorable Royal Rumble pay-per-view. The first pay-per-view of 2021, the first Royal Rumble without fans, the 34th edition of Royal Rumble. It was a memorable show. Lots of talking points, as we've discussed in the last hour and 10 minutes. But certainly things I want to go back and watch again. A shame that Keith Lee wasn't in the Rumble. I think he would have been very dominant, and that would have been interesting to see how far he would have gone. I probably would have put some money down that he would have been in the final four for sure. But like I say, we are firmly on the road to WrestleMania, guys, and it's getting exciting, isn't it? Because we can kind of see these matches coming together, and I think we'll all agree that the Boss versus the EST is possibly one match we can all look forward to. That would be tremendous. Who will Drew face? Who will Edge face? Who will Roman face? And what's in the picture for many of the stars we saw last night. Loved the last man standing match, very, very good. But before we say goodbye to the three of you, opportunity for you to throw out any plugs, anything you want to plug in the next minute or two. But Kyle's wrestling podcast, going from strength to strength, one of the members of the Johners podcasting network, of course. Where can we find you, either on social media or YouTube? Give us a bit of a plug, buddy.
You can find me on YouTube at Kyle Wrestling, Twitter at Kyle Talks Wrestling, I think, and Instagram Kyle Rogers 9977.
Awesome. And Maddog, I know you're all over social media. And heavily connected with TNT Extreme Wrestling. But where can we find you? Where we can reach out to you, say hi, and find out more about Maddog?
Yeah, reach out to me anytime on Mike Maddog Angus at Facebook, at Angus Maddog on the Twitter. And at the moment, I've just hit 1,000 followers on both of those. So that's really great to see. And my Instagram is growing as well. So I'm doing a little competition at the moment. Once my Instagram gets to 1,000 followers, I've got a little logo that someone's made for me that I'm going to put out on there. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. You can obviously catch a lot of my work for the wrestling promotions I work for on Powered 4 TV. So make sure to check out TNT Extreme Wrestling, Wrestle Island. And, I work for a couple of other companies as well. So keep your eyes peeled. And you never know where the Mad Dog might show up. And I was going to say as well, make sure to check out the Wrestling Travel podcasts that we do every live on Thursday afternoons at 4. With some really interesting stuff going on there. And make sure to go and check out the Wrestling with John's back catalogue with the other ones we've done for the Mad Dog. That Intercontinental titles one's one of my favourites that we've done. I thought that was a great show. So, keep your eyes peeled. And thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been an honour to chat to everyone. Great from Kieran and Kyle as well. So, thanks very much for having me on, chatting to you guys. It's been an honour.
And Kieran, KJ, it was announced yesterday on the Johners Facebook community page that KJPWP, I think I've got that right, your new podcast that you're going to be launching in March, is now part of the Johners Podcasting Network. So congratulations, my friend. But where can we reach out and say hi and get to know more about you and your up-and-coming podcast?
So you can always contact me on Facebook just through me, Kieran Reid. Just if you want to ask questions, just have a chat, just message me. I'm always available for a chat. I've set up my Facebook page for the podcast yesterday. So if you just type in at KJPWP, it should pop up. I haven't set up an Insta, Twitter or YouTube yet. I'm going to do that over the course of the next couple of weeks until I launch. But as soon as I do, I'll pop them on the Wrestling with Johners page so everyone can go have a look for when I start posting.
And if you enjoyed Kieran's fantasy booking of the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, you'll hear a lot more about it on the KJPWP. But from myself, like I say, you can catch Wrestling with Johners on Twitter at @withjohners_pod, on Instagram at Wrestling with Johners, and of course, just search Wrestling with Johners on Facebook to come across our fun, friendly, welcoming Facebook community page. Just search Wrestling with Johners, and that's Johners. You can probably see up in the top corner there, spelled JOHNERS. But there we go, guys. I want to thank you so much for being fantastic guests on this first ever live Wrestling with Johners. It was an absolute blast. I think we did all right. I think they'll have us back and we'll be doing this again very, very soon. But from myself, from Kyle, from Maddog, and from KJ, thank you very much. And we will catch up with you all again very, very soon.